Why Suzuki JIMNY 5-door 2025 model is the ultimate off-roader and the choice of really incredibly smart people all over the world, at least according to our friend Ilya, the one and only from Klubniy Servis, whose video we're translating today once again to increase the reach, remix, make it accessible to English-speaking audiences. Hey, I'm not an expert, I'm not a mechanic, never pretend to be like that, but I've been successfully delivering this content for you, my friends and subscribers, over the past 2+ years, something like this. There are a lot of you now with me. Thank you for your support. This is my chance to say this to you. This video is not sponsored by Suzuki Australia, but it could be, my friends, and you will see why. I will only translate what Ilya says here, but I am quite impressed by Suzuki myself. This video is sponsored by our old friends Autocast, creators of a whole lineup of products that are enabling wireless connectivity to your infotainment systems in your car, as long as those infotainment systems have wired Android Auto or wired Apple Carplay respectively. Connect your phone via Bluetooth and then, without connecting any wires, have access to Google Maps, podcasts, phone calls, whatever else, you name it. We're users of their devices. We're not just resellers of something like that. And Autocast, by the way, of course, sponsors the video by providing the devices, but they are not paying me to tell you only the good news. So thank you, Autocast, for sponsoring this video. If you want to decide what car will last you the longest, and it's basically the smartest purchase of the current day and time, you need to look at the top of car sales in specific countries that have harsher living or weather and on-road conditions. And in this case, no, it's actually not about Russia, it's actually about Israel. When 5-door JIMNY was released, it topped the charts of car sales in Israel because the car is Japanese, relatively cheap, and other characteristics of this car were immediately estimated as a worthy money investment by savvy and money-conscious car owners of Israel. Back in the day, Suzuki used to sell JIMNY across Russia, and its obvious kind of familiar version of a 3-door variant. So it was very small, and let's put it very simply, it's kind of impractical. Russians often look for practical money investment because money doesn't come as easy, perhaps. This 5-door is a little under 4 meters long now. It's 165 centimeters tall, and the rest of it is obviously something like a very cute little toy, I'm sure you would agree. And it's hard not to want one even just by looking at it. Not to mention, it looks even more so toy-like next to our massive friend Ilya here on the screen. There are lots of visual mods also available to JIMNY that you can apply to JIMNY, even the ones that make it look like Mercedes G-Wagon, Geländewagen. These are very personality-based kind of toys as cars, so people want to express themselves when they buy them in many different ways. Let's take a look at the engine bay. So this is actually an Indian-made JIMNY. It's a Japanese brand, of course, but it's assembled in India. It's a 4-cylinder petrol engine. Ilya is not specific here, but I think it's atmospheric engine, actually. It's not a turbo petrol engine. It pumps out only 106 horsepower, not much for a vehicle on a frame. This engine is well known, with nothing bad to say about it really. They have modified it a little bit, Suzuki, but not added anything that would increase complexity or cause some new problems at all. It's a tiny engine, it's a tiny battery, it's a tiny radiator, everything is tiny. But this vehicle is purposeful. It's not designed to drive a 7-people family around with all their luggage on top. I think it is obvious. What is particularly good about it? Well, imagine a quad bike, Ilya says. It's a great motorbikey vehicle for the right purpose. It's super high off-road capable. It's super maneuverable, it's super fun to ride, it can squeeze through rather dense forest because it's much smaller than any other vehicle. This list can continue. So what is missing for a quad bike? Well, the roof is missing for a quad bike, and essentially JIMNY is your quad bike with a roof. That is Ilya's point. Clearance of this vehicle is without a lift, of course, about 21 centimeters, and Ilya is about to demonstrate to you how much the vehicle actually sinks under the weight of someone as large and heavy as him.
So as he climbs into it, I'm sure we were all waiting for this exact moment when he started talking about it. We were like, can't wait to see him squeeze into this Jimny. It, of course, looks a little comical, and I think you can see the tilt that the vehicle now has incurred compared to before. It sunk, according to Ilya, by about 3 centimeters, if not more, to be honest with you. He said that they measured it with the team before recording to not waste the time right now during the recording, so we'll have to take their word for it. What is the moral of this story? If you are massively tall and weigh close to 150 kilos like Ilya here, this is probably sadly not a car for you, is it? But what he also straight away kind of tells us that even if you are that large but really want or need for some reason to be inside Jimny, it is not impossible. So let's take a look at the interior. First thing to remind everyone is that Jimny is a grandson of a Suzuki Samurai, a vehicle that was made for Japanese army, which was an incredible but very tiny off-roader that Ilya apparently had the pleasure of driving in at one point, and he now says that he had to use his toes to press the pedals of accelerator and the brake occasionally. Design is kind of modernized, I'm sure we would agree. When compared to the old Jimny 3-door or Samurai models, of course, there are airbags, there is a brand new steering wheel and updated dash, and Ilya loves everything about it. He's gushing about it in the original video, and I personally, as a former Jeep Wrangler owner, love and see it on screen too. I love what he likes here. It's kind of like a tiny version of Jeep Wrangler. I'm serious. Yeah. Ilya says, as any large cat, I love small boxes. I think it's my favorite line of his in a very long time. Should be on a t-shirt, as they say. Give the video a like if you haven't already, and tell me if you agree with that statement. Jimny is exactly that small box. But even large Ilya has enough space to fit his knees. Not super comfortable, but as I said earlier, doable, and he demonstrates it to us here. Steering wheel is tilt adjustable, unfortunately not telescopically adjustable just yet, but it is great already. There is a single zone aircon, but you can't imagine a dual zone aircon in such a small vehicle. What's the point? Seats are okay, but tiny, of course, for a large individual. You can see how he's barely fitting on there, but he can't help but being humorous again, saying that it's a great reminder to him that he just needs to lose a little bit of weight and stay in shape. So it's a positive influence of Jimny on him again. Lots and lots of analog buttons are demonstrated, variety of tumblers, switches and rotating controls, which makes him and me here translating this feel almost nostalgic. It's like looking at a brand new, well-preserved, perfectly preserved vehicle from, I don't know, 1990s or early 2000s that somehow made it to our time. Isn't that great? Electrically controlled windows, headlight washers enabled and disabled, hill descent control with one button press, and a few other very obvious kind of analog buttons. No touchscreen BS over here, and it's all very pleasing to the eye, especially if you imagine someone going through off-road properly. Perhaps it's wet weather conditions, maybe you're wearing gloves even, and that kind of stuff. It's awesome. It really is all awesome. This Jimny has a classic 4-speed automatic transmission and separately placed 4x4 controls of 4H, 4L with respective very aesthetic indicators on the central dash, which is part analog, part digital. Interior light controls are basic, once again nothing unusual, but it does once again remind you that you are transported magically into the good old, I don't know, 1970s, 1980s, when I was born, and Ilya is actually of a similar age of my own, if you are interested. A lot of these controls, such as separately placed electric window controls for the rear windows, remind us that the original design was for a 3-door Jimny by Suzuki, and They've invented this stretched 5-door model, but didn't want to redesign absolutely everything, because why bother? So they used a lot of controls from the 3-door Jimny on the frontal panels, fitting any newly designed and added extra controls, such as those buttons for the rear windows, where they could. And you can see kinda they placed it separately from the central cluster. Alright. This semi-digital, semi-analog frontal dash has most basic controls and indicators, everything you need, but no luxury, none of that extra electronic bling, let's call it. It's not the car for that. Multimedia or infotainment system, so to speak, is large-ish, kind of at face value when you look at that screen as he started talking to us, but once it lights up, once it turns on, you can see that this is not for luxury. It's not one of those basically built-in TVs that we expect, or iPads that we expect in those kind of cars. Multimedia or infotainment system is done to Japanese standards. It's very functional, it's very aesthetic, it's rudimentary and basic. There is nothing to write home about here, absolutely. Now, rear seats. I'm sure you're about to laugh. Rear seats will make the most serious ones of you, I'm sure, just crack a smile at the very least over here, because it looks like some kind of form of light torture. But Ilya straight away says to us, I won't lie to you, my friends, I'm not comfortable, but even being so massive, he's sitting kind of behind himself, if you think about it, because he had just adjusted the driver's seat for his own big frame. So you can see that if even someone so massive is sitting in front, and the same massive person tries to squeeze at the back, they kind of can still do it. It's not comfortable, but you kind of can still do it. And he says that if you are averagely and normally sized, as he says, like 175 centimeters tall, then you would feel rather comfortably into both driver and passenger positions. The boot is small, well, what did you expect? But proportionately small for the rest of the vehicle size. It's not much smaller than the boot of Tank 300 if again you consider proportions and try and kind of mentally scale it up. Do you know what I mean? Assembly quality, he points out at a couple of things. He doesn't stop on that for too long. It's Suzuki, of course, but it's assembled in India, so you can see a few smudges there. It's not particularly neat, so to speak. It's a bit messy, but oh well, it's not a massive issue. He even takes the car for a little test drive around their parking lot and kind of takes a few turns, goes on a couple of rough sort of asphalt, kind of beaten asphalt patches there. Look, it's a little box and it moves around, driving his massive weight around, and it does a good job at it. So look, I seriously can't stop smiling when I see him switching gears using that ancient looking gear selector, but there is beauty in it, especially in our extremely digitized modern day and age. Acceleration works fine. Of course, he's not speeding here, but you wouldn't speed in this vehicle under any circumstances unless you're really crazy. Ilya goes over those a few uneven places on the road, as I mentioned to you, which of course is not pretending to be an off-road test, but we don't need one because we had more appropriate one reviewed and translated on the channel about a year or a couple of years ago. Alright, so they're lifting it up and they are looking underneath. Of course, once again, it's not pretending to be a proper disassembly, but I'm glad that they're showing the underbelly as well, even if briefly. It's a real off-roader, not a fake one. There is a real frame, there are solid axles, differentials, main shaft, spring coils, suspension arms made of cast iron. The only thing that Ilya mentions is that those cast iron side arms apparently could be a problem if you hit them really hard and deform one of them, because they are strong enough then to pull your whole axle out of whack, and the whole part kind of needs to be replaced before it does further damage. But that's a very niche case. We can also see kind of generous application of anti-corrosion spray everywhere on the bottom of the vehicle, which is great to see because it's not common for stock standard stuff and usually is applied aftermarket, but here it comes stock standard. Onto the transfer case, it's placed separately from transmission, from all shafts, aka this construction is very modular and easily replaceable if something goes wrong. You don't have to change the whole big module if only a little part of it is wrong. So it's classic, I don't know, 1940s, 1950s Suzuki Samurai design over here. The body rests on the frame with those pins resting on rubber pads to provide some kind of little micro movement and not crush anything. Everything is fitted super strongly. Ilya lost count of how many reinforcement bars, lengthwise ones and horizontal ones, he pointed out and counted here for us on the screen. He says, massive respect to this tiny off-roader that did everything right, and compared to a lot larger and a lot more modern designed off-roaders that are not getting everything right and not look as solid and prepared for really rough off-roading conditions. Frontal axle is shown as also non-independent, solid one axle, solid axle bar, part-time 4x4 of course enabled here. It's not a full-time 4x4. In 2025 there is a classic steering bar that we can see there briefly shown to us, and somewhere above there obviously is that 1.5 liter petrol engine that we've briefly been shown when he showed us the engine bay. In a summary, Suzuki Jimny 5-door is an amazing vehicle if you can use it for what it's designed to be used for: off-roading or getting to your little farm or to the country house in the woods. No unproven technologies, everything is classic, Japanese, made incredibly solidly in 2025. 5 doors are not a gimmick. The car didn't lose its original appeal, off-road capability, but only gained a bit of utility and mass appeal for not just, a single dude or an adventurous girl, but perhaps a small family or a couple with a couple of dogs, you name it. Ilya says that he's absolutely in love with this vehicle and would have bought it for himself in a heartbeat if only he wasn't so massive and it was clearly not very super comfortable for him in this vehicle for his driving adventures.
And that's it, my friends. Did you enjoy this? I certainly did. I enjoyed watching the video. I enjoyed translating it for you. I enjoy interacting with you as well, my friends. And if I was planning to stay in Australia for a very long time, I am Australian, but I'm just not planning to retire here. It's too expensive here, but that's a separate rant altogether. We might make an off-topic video one sunny day. Then I would have probably considered Suzuki very, very seriously. If not for me, then I would have bought Jimny for my wife. That's what I would have personally done, while I would have bought myself a Kia Carnival for camping, for other kind of purposes. But again, it's a story for another time, and a reward for any of you who watch my full videos. They get the full extent, including this little spiel towards the end of the video that I don't have to be kind of very, very short about. Like, this is for people whose attention span is proven to be there. So you're very special to me. All 5 of you probably who have lasted until now. And if you are one of those 5 people, mate, I want to hear from you. And I want to get your like, okay? Because I really appreciate you and I like you, and I hope that you like me as well. Talk to you next week about something else, automotive industry related, value cars in Australia and all over the world. Thank you for watching.